Tony Stark is the smartest man in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and yet his technology has been stolen so many times it's almost embarrassing. Today, I'm breaking down every single piece of tech stolen from Tony Stark and how each one was used against him, starting with the one that nearly killed him before he ever became a hero, the Arc Reactor. Here's the thing about the miniaturized Arc Reactor. Tony builds a device that generates the equivalent power of a full industrial reactor, fits it inside his chest, and engineers the whole thing in a cave with a box of scraps. And it has zero security features, no biometric lockout, no self-destruct, nothing. Obadiah Stane, Tony's mentor and business partner, walks into his house with a sonic paralytic device, immobilizes Tony, and surgically removes the reactor from his chest, just pulls it out and leaves him to die on his own couch. And here's the kicker. Stane hands the reactor to Stark Industries' entire R&D division and tells them to replicate it. They can't. An entire team of world-class engineers with unlimited resources, and they cannot figure out what Tony built in a cave with improvised tools. The reactor's only real security was Tony's personal genius. Tony only survives because Pepper finds his original prototype reactor in a display case and gets it back into his chest in time, which is, you know, not ideal as a backup plan, but the reactor theft isn't just a one-time betrayal. Stane proves something every future villain takes notes on. You don't need to hack Tony Stark, you just need him to trust you, and what Stane does with that stolen reactor is somehow even worse. The Ironmonger armor. Here's the thing about the first evil Iron Man suit. It wasn't built by a rival nation or reverse engineered in some underground bunker. It was built inside Stark Industries by the CEO, using Stark's own blueprints, Stark's own facilities, and Stark's own employees. And Tony had zero idea it was happening. Obadiah Stane recovered the remnants of Tony's Mark I cave armor, pulled proprietary schematics using his executive access, and had his team construct a suit that absolutely dwarfs the Mark III. Heavy machine guns, missile pods, and enough crushing strength to crumple a car like a soda can. Tony builds a scalpel, Stane builds a sledgehammer. But here's where it gets embarrassing. Stane's team never solved the high altitude icing problem, the exact same failure Tony identified and fixed during testing. So when Stane chases Tony into the upper atmosphere, the suit freezes up and drops like a very expensive refrigerator. That's not engineering, that's photocopying. And the corporate governance failure is genuinely insane. A single executive secretly builds a weaponized warsuit beneath company grounds and nobody raises a hand. Tony ultimately has to direct Pepper to overload the Arc Reactor, blowing the roof and incinerating the Ironmonger along with Stane. But if Stane's knockoff suit seems crude, wait until you hear about the guy who built a working Arc Reactor in a Russian apartment with basically nothing. The Whiplash Arc Reactor. Here's where the story gets uncomfortable, because Ivan Vanko isn't just some random guy who stole Tony's tech. He's Tony's dark mirror. Both men are sons of brilliant fathers. Both build miniaturized arc reactors in cramped, improvised conditions with garbage materials. But where Tony builds a shield, Ivan builds a whip. See, Anton Vanko co-developed the original arc reactor theory alongside Howard Stark decades earlier. Howard got the glory, Anton got deported, so when Tony holds that press conference and tells the entire world I am Iron Man, he doesn't just reveal his identity, he confirms to every physicist on the planet that miniaturized arc reactors work. Ivan doesn't need to hack a single Stark server. Tony handed him the proof of concept on live television, and Ivan runs with it. He builds a functional reactor in a Russian apartment using crude tools and inherited blueprints, then channels the output into twin electrified whips capable of slicing a Formula One car clean in half. Later, working with Justin Hammer, Ivan scales the design across entire drone armies powered by derivative arc technology. The kicker, Tony had just testified before a Senate committee that nobody was within 10 years of replicating his tech. Ivan proved him wrong on international television in about 10 seconds flat, but at least Ivan only had whips and drones. The next theft involves someone Tony actually trusted walking out the front door with an entire suit, War Machine Mark I. This one's tricky because technically, Rhodey didn't steal anything. He just showed up to a house party, watched his best friend get blackout drunk in a weaponized suit, and decided the responsible thing to do was put on the Mark II prototype and fly it straight to Edwards Air Force Base. So it's less heist and more your friend taking your car keys, except the car keys are $1 billion flying weapon. But here's where it gets complicated. Once the military has the suit, they hand it over to Justin Hammer for upgrades. And Hammer, being Hammer, bolts on every piece of conventional firepower he can find: shoulder-mounted minigun, missile pods, and the legendary ex-wife Bunker Buster missile, which famously bounces off Ivan Vanko's armor like a wet napkin, which is, you know, not ideal for a Bunker Buster. But the real disaster isn't the weapons, it's the software. Hammer's modifications introduce backdoor access that Ivan Vanko exploits during the Stark Expo, hijacking the suit remotely and forcing Rhodey to fight Tony against his will. The suit fires on civilians, destroys exhibits, and turns America's shiny new military asset into a puppet. Tony has to use a high-powered electrical discharge to short-circuit Vanko's override and reboot Rhodey's systems. Basically a defibrillator for a hijacked war machine. The ex-wife failure is the perfect symbol for this whole mess. Hammer took the most advanced personal armor on the planet and made it less secure, less reliable, and infinitely more dangerous to everyone except the actual enemy. But if you think handing Stark tech to a rival contractor was bad, wait until the government decides to give the suit a fresh coat of paint and a new name: Iron Patriot. Let's talk about the most embarrassing security failure in the entire MCU. The government takes the War Machine armor, slaps a red, white, and blue paint job on it, calls it Iron Patriot, and sends Rhodey on official missions like he's a flying recruitment poster. Cool, great branding exercise. Zero actual security upgrades. Here's where it gets dark. While investigating a suspected Mandarin location in Pakistan, Rhodey walks straight into an AIM trap. Extremist enhanced soldiers physically overpower him and rip him out of the armor. Not hack it, not disable it remotely. They grab a man in a multi-billion-dollar weapons platform and strip him out of it like they're taking a jacket off a coat rack. But that's not even the real problem. An extremist operative named Saven climbs into the suit using embedded authorization codes, walks onto Air Force One in a flag-painted suit, bypasses every Secret Service protocol, and kidnaps the President of the United States. The armor's authentication system assumes that if the right codes are entered, the right person must be inside. No biometric scan, no secondary verification, nothing. The American flag armor, built to project strength and safety, is used to abduct the American president on live television. That's not a security breach. That's a symbolic gut punch. Killian's people figured out you don't need to hack the hardware when you can just replace the human inside it, which is, you know, not ideal. But if you think a stolen suit causing a national crisis is bad, wait until you see what happens when alien technology gets welded onto Stark's designs by a guy with a vendetta and a hardware store. Chitauri Stark hybrid tech. Most of the time when someone steals from Tony Stark, it's personal, a grudge, a rivalry, a vendetta. But this one's just business. After the Battle of New York, Adrian Toomes and his salvage company land a city contract to clean up the alien wreckage. Chitauri weapons, Leviathan parts, the works. Then the newly formed Department of Damage Control swoops in and revokes the contract. A joint operation between Stark Industries and the federal government, basically telling Toomes and his crew to pack up and go home. No compensation, no transition plan. So Toomes does what any financially ruined blue-collar guy with a warehouse full of alien technology would do. He keeps it. For 4 years, Toomes and his crew quietly reverse-engineer Chitauri components and fuse them with Stark-derived tech to build hybrid weapons, gauntlets that can disintegrate solid objects, rifles compact enough for a street robbery but powerful enough to gut a bank interior, all sold on the black market to anyone with cash. New York is being slowly flooded with alien-powered weaponry, and nobody at Stark Industries notices because they're too busy fighting robots in Eastern Europe. Here's the thing though, Toomes isn't wrong about being screwed over. He's a victim of corporate displacement turned arms dealer, which is, you know, not ideal, but the man has a point, and when Spider-Man finally starts pulling at this thread, the collateral damage is staggering. The Staten Island ferry nearly gets ripped clean in half. Vulture's own cargo heist ends in a fiery crash near Coney Island. The Avengers break a city, Stark profits from the cleanup, and the guy left holding the bill builds a criminal empire out of spare parts. But if a black market arms operation sounds bad, wait until you hear what happens when Tony leaves his most dangerous tech to a teenager in a pair of sunglasses. The Eat I Teach glasses. Tony Stark looked at the full scope of his technological legacy, every suit, every weapon, every satellite in orbit, and decided the best security protocol was a pair of sunglasses and a grieving teenager. Here's the thing, EDITH isn't just some fancy heads-up display. It's an acronym for Even Dead, I'm the Hero, which tells you everything you need to know about the man who built it. The glasses connect to an orbital weapons platform controlling thousands of armed micro-drones with global surveillance, facial recognition, and the ability to authorize lethal strikes from space. And Tony left all of that to a 16-year-old kid because he liked him. But the disaster isn't Peter having the glasses, it's what Peter does with them. Overwhelmed and convinced he's not ready, Peter voluntarily hands EDITH to Quentin Beck, a guy he's known for approximately 72 hours. No secondary confirmation, no cooling off period, no "are you sure you want to give orbital kill authority to a stranger?" Just a clean transfer. Beck, a former Stark Industries holographic specialist with a grudge, immediately uses the drones to project massive elemental attacks across Europe, manufacturing crises he can then swoop in and solve. His final battle in London deploys hundreds of drones generating photorealistic illusions while secretly targeting civilians and Spider-Man for elimination. And even after Peter stops him, Beck wins. Posthumously, he releases deepfake footage outing Peter's identity and framing him for the attacks, proving that EDITH's real power was never the missiles. It was information warfare. This is Ultron's logic wearing sunglasses, godlike power centralized in one person's judgment, with zero institutional oversight. Tony didn't fix the problem after Sokovia, he just made it smaller and easier to carry in a pocket. But if you think a con artist with drone access is bad, wait until you see what those drones were originally built to do. The Mysterio Combat Drones. Here's the thing about BARF. Yes, that's its actual name. Binarily augmented retro framing. Tony Stark built a holographic system so advanced it could reconstruct your worst memories in real time, let you walk through them and heal from trauma. Genuinely revolutionary therapy tech, and Tony named it BARF, called it a waste of money, and moved on. Quentin Beck did not move on. Beck created that system. He poured years into building something that could fundamentally change how humans process pain, and his boss slapped a joke name on it and dismissed the entire thing. Was Tony being a jerk? Absolutely. Was that enough to justify what Beck did next? Not even a little. After getting fired, Beck assembled a team of disgruntled ex-Stark employees, each carrying their own grudge and their own specialized knowledge of Stark systems. Together, they took the BARF holographic engine and combined it with Stark micro-drone platforms to create illusions functionally indistinguishable from reality. But the real escalation came after they got EDITH. Now those drones weren't just projecting monsters, they were firing through the projections. Actual explosions, actual casualties, all hidden inside stage heroic interventions where Beck swoops in to save everyone from a threat he manufactured 30 seconds ago. The crowd cheers while people are quietly dying behind the curtain, and the damage outlasts Beck himself. Even after he dies, footage of weaponized drones attacking London is already out there. Nobody can agree on what was real. Conspiracy theories multiply. Beck didn't just steal therapy tech and turn it into a weapon, he made entire populations question whether what they're seeing is actually happening, which you know is significantly worse than a punch. But if Beck's stolen tech made people doubt reality, the next piece of Stark hardware made it disturbingly easy to build a new one from scratch. The Damage Control Fabricator. Every other piece of stolen Stark tech on this list is a thing. A suit, a pair of glasses, a reactor. The Fabricator isn't a thing, it's the thing that makes things, and somehow it ended up in Happy Hogan's condo. After Tony's death, Happy held onto a large automated manufacturing system capable of synthesizing advanced suits and devices on demand. This machine can design and produce an indefinite variety of nanotech tools, weapons, and equipment with minimal human oversight, and it's sitting in a residential apartment building next to a couch. Here's where it gets complicated. Peter Parker, a miner with zero formal position at Stark Industries, walks in and starts using this billion-dollar manufacturing backbone to build himself a new spider suit and design nanotech cure devices for multiversal villains. No clearance, no credentials, just vibes and the fact that Happy liked him. The Department of Damage Control noticed. During their interrogation of Happy, they explicitly flagged the Fabricator as misappropriated Stark property, which, you know, fair enough. The man was hoarding the means of producing unlimited advanced technology in his living room, but the DODC wasn't even the real problem. Norman Osborn's Green Goblin persona reasserted itself during cure development and attacked Peter inside the condo. The cures were destroyed or stolen, the Fabricator was wrecked, and the entire floor was structurally devastated, and Aunt May died. Happy's loyalty-driven hoarding created a catastrophic single point of failure failure in a civilian building, and it cost the life of the person Peter loved most. The DODC swept in, confiscated the wreckage, arrested Happy, and Peter's informal access to Stark's entire manufacturing pipeline vanished. Not stolen by a supervillain, just lost because nobody ever asked whether a retired bodyguard should be the sole custodian of a machine that could build anything. But the fabricator wasn't the only thing lost in that apartment. The cures it was building, those have their own story. The nanotech cure theft. Every other entry on this list involves someone stealing Stark tech to gain power. This one's different. The villains are running from Stark tech designed to take their power away. Doctor Strange's botched spell drags in villains from across the multiverse, including Doc Ock, Electro, Sandman, Lizard, and the Green Goblin. Strange wants to send them back to their home universes to die on schedule. Peter says no. Instead, he fires up the Stark fabricator and builds individualized nanotech cures, a new inhibitor chip for Otto's tentacles, a serum to suppress the Goblin persona and give Norman his mind back. For a brief, beautiful moment, it's actually working. Then the Goblin wakes up. Norman's darker half looks at the cure designed to erase him and essentially says, "I don't want to be fixed," which is, not ideal. He attacks Peter, destroys the cure infrastructure, and kills Aunt May with his glider. The entire rehabilitation project collapses in about 4 minutes. But here's where it gets interesting. Earlier in the film, Otto seizes control of Peter's iron spider suit through its nanotech, proving Stark nanoparticles can be co-opted bidirectionally. The tech designed to restrain someone can be turned around on the person who built it. That's not a weapon being stolen, that's a cure being rejected, and the rejection itself becoming the weapon. Peter eventually succeeds with help from 2 alternate Spider-Men, administering every cure at the Statue of Liberty. But the cost is a spell that erases Peter Parker from the memory of every person alive. Stark nanotech started this franchise as weapons, then armor, then surveillance, and finally, it became a tool for deciding who deserves to keep their powers, their identity, their fate. The villains didn't steal it to become stronger, they destroyed it because being fixed terrified them more than dying. Tony Stark left behind technology that could reshape anyone. The debt for that power fell on a teenager who lost everything to honor it. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, click the video on the screen now.